Horror Remembrance Day, which we are celebrating today, has actually led to more discussion on this topic. And as we all know, the joy of getting independence from the shackles of colonial regime was surpassed by the stark reality of partition horror. The cartographic redrawing of maps on the eastern and western side of Indian border completely altered the ordinary lives of people. What followed thereafter was intense communal strife, deteriorization and displacement. According to government estimate, and I'm quoting from the government files, in 1956, 4.9 million refugees from West Pakistan and 4 million, these are all approximate data, from East Pakistan they have migrated to the western and the eastern borders of India respectively. It is now well established that in Punjab, the mayhem following the partition reached genocidal proportion, where all the three communities, the Sikhs, the Hindus, the Muslims, all were engaged equally in revenge and retaliation. They all faced violent displacement and gradual rehabilitation. But the event there in the Punjab side was quick and decisive, and so was the exchange of population. Since I'll be talking on the Bengal side of partition, state. So point by point, I'd like to emphasize that here the tempo was slow, spanning decades and adding more complexity in each term. Number one. Secondly, compared to Punjab, in Bengal the flow was unidirectional. It was mostly the Hindus, including Buddhists and some tribes like Chakma tribes of East Pakistan, who faced a forced severing of their home and hearth. To be precise, the migration of Bengali Hindus from East Pakistan began even before partition, following widespread communal pandemonium in the districts of Noakhali and Kumil. The vivisection of Bengal in August 1947 gave further fillip to such incident, and then since then we are seeing that recurring incidents were going on so far as migration is concerned. The crisis in Punjab has taken up a national emergency during that time, but this sense of emergency was totally lacking when it comes to eastern border. Hindu minorities of East Bengal was not considered to be in great danger, and the migration was regarded as the product of emergently fierce and baseless rumors. Strangely enough, the contemporary writings like Yashodhara Bagchi and Shubharanjan Das Gupta's writing, Trauma and Triumph, which is otherwise, I think, an extremely relevant anthology on gendered experience of partition, regarded fear psychosis and not actual violence as the main reason of migration. But if we look into A.J. Kamra's book, he gave graphic narratives of communal violence which engulfed East Pakistan's village after village, and it was based on data. So we have to look into this aspect, and in the Bengal intellectual circuit, it is still believed that it is mostly the fear psychosis which engulfed East Pakistan's village after village, and it was based on data. So we have to look into this aspect, and in the Bengal intellectual circuit, it is still believed that it is mostly the fear psychosis. So another major differences between which I could locate between the Punjab and Bengal partition is while in the former case, the mutual, what we can see is that there was a virtual exchange of population. But in case of Bengal, the migration happened in phases, and government tried to limit the transfer of population. So much so, in 1950, we see Nehru-Liaquat Ali Pact was promulgated, which promised to protect minorities of their respective nation. But East Pakistan failed to keep its promise, and migration went unabated. It was not before 50s that the complacent Indian government realized the gravity of the situation and was forced to shift its position from providing temporary relief to the incoming refugees to permanent rehabilitation. But by that time, the situation became too complicated and critical. So now I would like to emphasize on the caste-class dimension in Bengal. And Nilanjana Chatterjee and scholars like Anushwar Basurai Chaudhary, who are writing profusely on Bengal partition, has noted down 3 factors which are responsible for migration on Bengal side. These 3 factors are dhan, that is wealth, property, man, that is honor and prestige, and pran, that is life. For the first first and second wave, it was Dhan and Man, while for the lower caste, it was mainly the Pran, which has forced them to migrate to the Bengal side. To understand this Dhan, Man and Pran factor, one needs to look into the hierarchies within the Hindu community. And one should understand it in terms of class, caste, occupation and economic resources. Joy Chatterjee in her book Spoils of Partition mentioned that it was mostly the elite and the resourceful sections belonging to the upper caste which took an early exit from East Pakistan. They did not require any help from the provincial government for their settling down. They were followed by the middle class and those in the service sector. This group was not recognized as displaced persons and was not provided any kind of financial assistance. The government treated them as economic migrants motivated by the doles offered by the government. In fact, the central government advised the West Bengal government to shut down the rehabilitation ministry. Thus, this educated middle class but relatively less resourceful section had no other option but to occupy vacant places in and around Calcutta and form Jabardakhal or the squatters colony under the aegis of leftist refugee organization United Central Refugee Council, shortly UCRC. These colonies were mostly regularized in 1979 when Communist Party of India came to power, and by 1950s what we can see, these two waves, the migration of these two waves were literally complete. One interesting observation was made by Ranjit Roy is that the major segment of this upper and the middle class people who had earlier connection with Calcutta did not